Okay, so the Halloween Ends trailer has finally premiered. And not only that, we've gotten a synopsis for it as well too. And I'm shocked, I'm thrown off, and I'm excited for this movie. Now, let me be clear. I enjoy all the Halloween films, even Rob Zombie's Halloween films. I enjoy them all. There is a place for every single Halloween film that's out there, no matter how bad you think some of them might be. They all have a place. And after Halloween Ends, which was very, very polarizing, as y'all might remember, a lot of folks were very dead set against Halloween Ends. I really enjoyed it, honestly. Nobody knew what to expect with Halloween. I said Halloween Ends, Halloween Kills. Nobody knew what to expect with Halloween Ends. All we knew, and it was discussed not long after Halloween Ends or Halloween Kills came out, was that Halloween Ends was going to take place 4 years later. That we were skipping ahead 4 years, and a lot of people were having issues with that because due to a certain character's death in Halloween Kills, you would think that we're not just ready to move that far ahead. Like, these are things that we need to address like immediately, because that's a big death that happened. Can't spoil it. 10-year rule. You know who it was though if you watch the film. And it is interesting that they're scooching ahead 4 years. And the storyline that they've released, we don't know if it's official, basically says that Laurie has finally decided to move on with her life and that she's not going to let Michael Myers control her life anymore. She's trying to actually live. So I think somewhat similar to her in H2O, because it says she's also written a memoir and she's like living out her life. But somewhere nearby, somebody kills a boy, and that's leading to Michael Myers' return. Whether this kid is going to end up being a copycat, or somehow this all leads to Michael getting drawn back out, which is probably what's going to end up happening. But the trailer, though, the trailer very much showed us old school Laurie, and by that I mean current Jamie Lee Curtis, but decked out looking like old school Laurie with the jean pants and the blue shirt, and running around in the house trying to fight off Michael Myers. And there's some big tension in there, including Michael Myers forcing Laurie's hand to turn on a garbage disposal and then trying to shove her hand down it. Absolutely loving it. It looks so good. And if what you're saying is that, and here's my assumption, I'm gonna throw it out there because they said this is gonna be different from any other film we've seen before. My only assumption is that we're going for something simple, is that we're all thinking a million different things here, but maybe different is just a return to form. Maybe we are getting basically a combination of Halloween and Friday the 13th Part 5, the one where it's not actually Jason Voorhees, it's Tommy Jarvis doing Jason Voorhees, or the dad, Roy. It was Roy, Jason Voorhees. Tommy Jarvis was at the end. But I get the idea. We're getting a combination of Halloween 1 and Friday the 13th Part 5, and we're blending those together. And I am so excited to see how this turns out. But I digress, folks. Tune in, because tonight we are talking Nope and Sorority Row. You don't want to miss this, folks. This is T Watches a Scary Movie. Y'all tuning in to check out a couple reviews. As I've mentioned, both of these reviews are available separately in video form here on YouTube in case you don't have the time to watch the full episode. But remember, things like movie news and opinions on other things besides the movies I'm reviewing, they're only going to be able to be caught in the full episode, which goes up every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time at youtube.com/c/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. And the audio version goes up half an hour earlier at 8 p.m. on all your favorite podcasting platforms. I know what Get Out, like when we eventually heard the title, the title in the movie, Get Out, when Lakeith Stanfield is at that party with Daniel Kaluuya and like he breaks the whole mind hold, and tells him really quickly to get out. Like, he's like, you know, the Peter Griffin reaction, hearing the title in the movie. And us, I'm sure they said us a bunch of times there. Not as special in that, but there's something incredibly, incredibly unique about Nope, that the word nope in itself is something that gets used a lot in horror films, especially horror films with like a black cast in it, because very simply, like in a very meta moment, that is something we'll usually say, like, hey, that looks like a dark alleyway and it's the quicker way to get home, or we can go the long way that adds an hour. And you look down the dark alleyway and it looks like you're just going to get stabbed in there. And you're like, nope, not doing that. And I love that. I absolutely love that. Like, that's the first thing that stood out about this movie to me, is the fact that it works so perfectly. And Jordan Peele absolutely plays that up in the movie, because numerous times throughout it, whether the characters are actually saying it, there are multiple situations in the film Nope to where the only thing that's appropriate to say in these situations really would be, nope, not doing that. And that is leading us here into my thoughts on Nope. Now, let me first throw this out here, y'all. You know my 10-year rule. So you don't have to worry if you're watching this right now or listening. You don't have to worry that I'm going to drop heavy spoilers for the film, because I want y'all to be surprised, especially if it's within 10 years. You got to be able to enjoy it, because this is still a movie, obviously, that hasn't even come out yet, depending on when you're watching or listening to this. I'm recording this still a few days before its release, but it's still a chance to see it in theaters. It's going to be obviously on streaming and on physical media within about a month and a half or so. So I want to make sure that y'all get a chance to really enjoy this, but that doesn't mean we still can't have fun watching this film. And we're given a very, very interesting start to Nope. We have our lead character. I don't know if lead character is the right word. We have one of our leads, OJ, played by Daniel Kaluuya, who is out tending to the horses on the farm that he runs with his father, played by Keith David, who is OJ Sr. And the idea is something drops down and kills OJ's father. Something just drops randomly from the sky and kills OJ's father. We know it's something weird. We have no idea what it is there, but something happens at the beginning of this movie to where objects fall from the sky and OJ's father is killed. Now, OJ, his father, and occasionally his sister run a business for movies and TV, just Hollywood studios in general, to where they basically run a horse farm and they lease out their horses for productions that might need a horse on set. So we see that OJ and his family have worked on various movies and TV shows, and right now they're filming a commercial. And that introduces us to OJ's sister, Emerald, who is fashionably late and has all these other side hustles going on there that she's trying to push and promote. And while, of course, she loves her brother and they love being around each other there, at the same time, we could tell that OJ is clearly not wanting to deal with his sister, as this is not an isolated incident. His sister clearly doesn't put much back into the business that OJ is trying to save. Now, that's, of course, the story of our two lead characters. We also feature local amusement park owner Ricky Jupe Park, played by Stephen Yeun, who you might know from, what's it called? I Say The Walking Dead. And I know that's obviously not a timely one, because the better idea would probably be to go with I Say Sorry to Bother You, because I freaking love Sorry to Bother You, but it's Minari. Yeah, from Minari. But Stephen Yeun makes up the third of our leads in this film, who runs a nearby amusement park that employs some of OJ's horses from time to time, and is clearly also dealing with some of his own trauma from his childhood acting days as well too. And the story of Nope, as you've guessed from the trailers and what's been released, has to do with aliens. The idea is that, well, if you have a chance to catch the one thing on camera that can make you rich beyond your wildest dreams, how far are you willing to go to make that happen? And that's only one of the story threads that we're following here in Nope, but that's the big overarching story there, is that OJ and Emerald realize that they might have proof of an alien encounter, and their goal is to try to capture that as a way of basically taking care of themselves now that their father is gone and they don't have exactly the best business going with their Hollywood horse business that they're running. Now, they're joined by electric technician Angel Torres, played by Brandon Perea, who comes out to install numerous video cameras for them to have a better opportunity of catching glimpses of these aliens that are plaguing the Haywood farm. And I enjoy the fact that we don't really have to spend that much time going over trying to convince people of the reality of this. We don't exactly have a long runtime with this film. It's a little over 2 hours. You know, it's 135 minutes. And I know that seems long, but this movie moves like rather briskly. So I feel that had we spent too much time focusing on aliens are real, are they really aliens, etc., we would lose a lot of the movie. Especially when it comes to a lot of the character building that we get in the film, because there's still a lot of unanswered questions I had about Nope leaving it, that had we focused more on, okay, I got to convince this person that aliens are a thing, probably wouldn't have worked out as well. What I will say, though, is that it's hard not to see the parallels to a film like Signs by M. Night Shyamalan, because Jordan Peele himself has been compared to directors and creators like M. Night Shyamalan before, who basically just came on the scene and just blew everybody away with just this succession of like numerous films in the horror, suspense, sci-fi genre that just blew everybody away. But then I feel that while he didn't crack under any kind of pressure, I feel the public just had these loftier and loftier ambitions for his own films that, in my opinion, weren't fair to put on, because I like the majority of M. Night Shyamalan films. I actually really, really do. It's more the high-profile ones that I don't really get behind, but I actually like the majority of M. Night Shyamalan films. And it's hard not to see the parallels with Jordan Peele, because Get Out and Us were such highs, especially in the black community, that a lot of people, I think, put that next effort from him way up here. It had to deliver because those first two delivered, and you can do nothing but make perfect films. And Nope is really, really good. It'll take a second watch for me to see if I would put it on the same level of an Us or a Get Out, but it is a really, really good movie. And I feel that, again, while this is going to be the most accessible film, I do think this will be the most accessible film to audiences out there, because even though it is a predominantly black story, unlike Get Out and Us, I feel that it's presented maybe in a more comfortable way for non-black audiences to take in, you know, however important that may be. Y'all can watch a movie, you know. But what I will say is that it's not hard to see the parallels between a film like Signs and a movie like this, to where there's some of the same continuity threads between like Signs and Nope, to where, you know, this family loses a family member and that kind of guides what they're doing the rest of the movie around aliens and their idea of trying to catch some kind of proof that these aliens exist as well too, and all these things they're going to get from discovering it. And while I will say that I didn't have the same kind of terror as I did in Signs, there was a different kind of terror in Note for sure. It definitely doesn't have the same kind of scares that Signs provided, to where, like, you know, the hand under the door, alien just showing up, things like that, to where we're just completely freaked out. They have much different scares in Nopes for sure, including a really, really good sequence set earlier in the film, when the Haywood farm is besieged by some intruders. That really, really good at setting up the tension and the like some good fear earlier on in the story. The thing that kind of intrigued me, though, was that one of the story threads that we follows Ricky Jupe, played by Stephen Yeun, and again his childhood career as a child actor on a sitcom, and an incident that involved a monkey, a chimp, on a sitcom that he was on. And it's interesting because there are implications that something to do with that incident has something to do with what's going on in the main story with the aliens themselves, but we're not really given any kind of concrete proof. There's a lot of like pieces that you have to put together and kind of make the assumption for yourself, which is fine, because I've never been a person who's had an issue like connecting those kind of dots for myself. But I do wish that if that was like not the downside or the lull, but if that was going to be like the one thread that didn't make a lot of sense to me, I do wish there were just a few more clues with that particular part of the storyline. And in general, actually, I just really like Steven Yeun as an actor a lot, so I really do wish that he got more time on screen as well too, because he's definitely the third lead of the film, but his screen time isn't the same as Daniel Kaluuya or Keke Palmer. And that's not to say that I would sacrifice screen time with the two of them to get more with Steven Yeun, but I feel that he probably should have been included just a little bit more. And of course, there are things that I probably didn't pick up that on a second watch are going to make a hell of a lot more sense to me. And in my head, I think I'm connecting, like I said, some of those dots from Jupe's storyline to the Haywood story, but I'm not entirely sure about that. What I will say is that when we get to the crux of everything, towards like the final act of the film itself, there's nothing skipped, nothing left unturned at that point. I feel that Jordan Peele decided to not just like jerk us around, and he really unleashed the full force of this movie in that third act, which is interesting because I have seen a number of reviews that have said how much the film they felt falls apart in the last act of it, which I didn't feel in the least bit, honestly. Honestly, I felt that the second half of the film actually was stronger than the first half because it validated so much of what happened in the first half of the film. And the character work we get, especially from Kaluuya and Palmer, is just fantastic. Like, that sibling relationship from the start of the film until the end of the film is a constant like roller coaster, to where we're hoping that, can these two just get along? Can these two just finally be on a good page with each other? Like, we can tell they love each other, we can tell they're concerned for each other there, but it's not really until the third act that we really get to see those family bonds, which I really enjoyed getting to see, because those two just make a great pairing as a brother and sister team in here. Now, in regards to the aliens themselves, I'm not going to say much about that because I do want this to be a legitimate surprise. But what I will say is that Jordan Peele absolutely took an approach, and he took a viewpoint that hasn't been used before with aliens, as far as I'm aware of, at least. He decided to do something incredibly unique with the aliens, and I really applaud him for that, because I do feel that, given what we all think, or at least what I thought Nope was going to turn out to be prior to seeing it, is very, very different from what ultimately ended up on scene. Like, without question, it's very, very different from what ended up on scene. And that's okay, because I like the fact that my expectations were completely turned on their head. They don't have to equal the same thing. I like being surprised like that, and Jordan Peele definitely brought a surprise to this for sure. And there were definitely a lot of social commentary in there, which Jordan Peele is so great at doing. And again, I can only point out what I feel that I picked up, because I know my friend John, who I mentioned, he got some different lessons out of the film for sure. And one of the ones that kind of stood out to me was earlier on in the film, when OJ and Emerald are on this commercial set, and they're hired to bring one of their horses to do this spot for this commercial. And you know, OJ is very much telling everybody, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. You need to listen to me. I'm the expert. And if you don't do it, something's going to happen. And it's hard not to get some real world parallels, that the one person who knows what they're doing, and you've brought in this expert, that is what they're paid for, that is their job, and they're telling you not to do something, and you do it anyway, and bad shit happens, and then you're surprised and you're angry and you're upset. It's like, well, why? You were warned, you were told, and you still ignored it. You still decided to go a completely different route than what you were told. So there are absolutely some big lessons for sure in this film to pick up on, and that's just one of the few that stood out to me. Also, very cool seeing Michael Wincott in the film as well, because the entire time I'm watching this guy, so Michael Wincott plays this director, Antlers Holst, who ends up, who directs the commercial that OJ and Emerald are working on at the beginning of the film. And I couldn't tell until the end of the movie. It's like, this guy's voice, I know his voice, and I know he looks familiar, but I can't figure out why. And it was fucking Michael Wincott, who's so awesome. Robin Hood, Men in Tights, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, excuse me. I always think of Men in Tights, same time, same fucking time. But a fantastic cast in this film. There is some terrifying imagery in it for sure. Like, there's absolutely going to be a few scenes that I feel some of you out there are just going to audibly gasp in the theater over it. But it's also still funny. And that's the one thing that I'm happy that Jordan Peele has been able to maintain, is that with all of his films so far, he's been able to keep that balance to where he can shock and surprise us, but he can also keep us happy and comfortable with the film as well, too. And I really enjoyed that he seemingly does that so easily. It doesn't seem to be hard at all for him to keep those two things together. So kudos to you, Jordan Peele, on another success. So with that, you guys have to go and check Nope out. It's in theaters right now, and I say that obviously if you're watching this within mid-July to mid-August, basically. It's in theaters. You absolutely want to check this one out here. It's perfect, and if you were a person who didn't really enjoy Get Out or Us, I think this will be a little bit more your taste. You're also insane if you didn't like either one of those films, but hey, more power to you for it. But definitely get to theaters. Go check out Nope, everybody. Folks, again, I appreciate you tuning in. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. And also, please, please, please make sure to get out there and support some causes that really need us right now. If you check out Poltergeist and Paramours.com, it's a great website with a lot of really, really awesome horror clothing on there, including a bunch of Fight Like a Final Girl t-shirts, which right now all proceeds are going to a lot of abortion causes across the United States. Obviously, we know what's just happened recently with Roe v. Wade, and I am 100% in support of that. I've already bought a shirt. I'm going to be buying more shirts as well too, because this is a cause I really, really want to be able to support and help as much as I possibly can. So think about giving to these places out there that really need you. So, following up on my review of The House on Sorority Row, one of our OG slashers that told the story about a group of sorority sisters who choose to play a prank on their house mother, which led to her deranged son seeking revenge on them years later, trying to kill all of them for revenge for his dead mother. Now, it's a great slasher. It's a very, very simple premise. Somebody is killed. Family member who's upset decides they're going to take everything into their own hands. It's a fantastic film and a very, very easy slasher to get behind. When we got the remake came out, and it was very interesting only because it came out during the time to where we were getting all of these remakes. I'm not sure if y'all have heard me talk about it numerous times before, but I have. The 2000s, from 2000 to 2010 specifically, was just the land of remakes of old slashers and other horror films coming out to Hollywood again. So, we got our Black Christmas, we got our Japanese remakes, we got like The Hitcher, and we ended up with Sorority Row as well. Now, the idea behind a lot of these remakes was that they were going to keep the very simple basis of the story, but then do everything else different. Very, very different from something like let's say like a Fright Night, to where Fright Night it's not a shot-for-shot remake, sure, but for the most part, it's the same story. Vampire moves in next door to Charlie Brewster, starts flirting with his mom and his girlfriend and everything. Charlie asks a local horror legend to help him vanquish the vampire, rinse and repeat. That's it. That's all you got to do. With Sorority Row, the idea is that a group of sorority sisters plays a prank that backfires horrendously on them, and they are tormented by a being that wants revenge on them. Now, there's a very, very big difference in the motivations of our original killer versus the killer in this, but they're still good motivations. Now, our writer of this is somebody that I've talked about before, Josh Stolberg and Peter Goldfinger, who have written Spiral and Jigsaw and Piranha 3D, amongst a lot of others, a lot of good horror films out there that I really, really enjoy. So it was nice to revisit this just because I really do enjoy Josh Stolberg's work. And what's interesting is that I've seen, I would say about 95% of this film before I actually purchased it this week, because over the last 12 or 13 years, basically, since it's been out, like, I've seen all the movie basically in clips. I knew who the killer was. I knew who the lead characters were. Like, I knew pretty much everything about it. I just never saw it in a cohesive manner. So I finally got a chance to see it. And Yeah. You know what? It works perfectly in that time frame of 2000s remix, because the thing is that we weren't getting too complicated of a plot with this. Again, the original plot wasn't that complicated in this one. And this one, I don't want to spoil the motivations of the killer. We're past the 10-year rule, but what I will say is that the prank was very similar to the first one, to where somebody was trying to fake a death, and unfortunately that led to a real death, and thus that led to a killer emerging and targeting all of these girls. Now, the similarities there past that continue with the idea that there's, one girl who's kind of like the ringleader of this plot, who's angry and mean to everybody else because she's trying to keep her secret safe. And that ends up with this ringleader and the rest of the girls kind of blackmailing one of the other girls in the group, who basically doesn't want to go along with it and wants to do the right thing. Because that's the way that slashers typically work when there's some kind of revenge plot, is that somebody wanted to do the right thing, and for whatever reason, they were not able to. And that led to the majority of their problems happening. Now, the killer in this movie does have a weapon they like to use. It is a tire iron. And I do enjoy that, because the original film, there wasn't any kind of specialized weapon. Because if you saw how the house mother was killed in the original film, that would make it a little complicated for our killer in that movie to take out other victims. So basically it was just, hey, this is a killer in a mask. They're killing everybody with anything that's around. And that's fine. But I like the fact that they take the trope of, look, most slashers have a trademark item, and here's your trademark item in this film. It's going to be a tire iron that also has a knife on it for whatever reason, and so on. And I really like that, because it's a nice, memorable weapon. And that leads definitely to some very, very memorable kills. I like the idea of slashers using weapons that can be used very uniquely. There's nothing wrong with the use of something like a knife or a hatchet or a chainsaw or anything, but we see those in so many movies that there's only so much you can do across a million different movies featuring these weapons, to where it gets a little bit old. And not old where I'm bored with seeing it, but just that it's always nice and you can appreciate when something new comes on, like a tire iron knife. I like that quite a bit. Now, in terms of the actual cast of characters here, this could have been slightly better, and I think it's a mix of making sure that we were selling to that 2000s crowd. Because if you look at the cast that we have here, Briana Evigan, Leah Pipes, Rumer Willis, Jamie Chung, Audrina Patridge from The Hills and Laguna Beach and all of that. It's a very, very, and we can't forget, Carrie Fisher is in this. Carrie Fisher, yes, Princess Leia, absolutely had a role in this film as well. So it's not a big one, but she absolutely had a role in this, which I absolutely love, because Carrie Fisher just didn't give a fuck. And I feel in the last 2 decades before she passed, Carrie Fisher did whatever the hell she wanted to. Queen, I salute you for that now too. The cast is really good, but the problem is, I feel, and maybe not necessarily a problem, maybe just because that kind of TV didn't appeal to me, is that a lot of it very much comes off like I'm watching an episode of The Hills or Laguna Beach or something around that time. And again, I say that, and it sounds like it's a knock. It's not really supposed to be, though, because I guess that the kind of conversations these girls are having would really, it would appeal to people who are watching all those shows at that time, which is kind of surprising that this movie didn't really do better, because I actually do feel that this appealed greatly to that audience at the time, the MTV generation, when MTV was still good back then. So just very interesting observation with that. Now, in terms of everything else, it's surprisingly not bloody. And not that the original specifically was, but the 2000 horror films, that was one of their biggest calling cards, is that you're going to get more gore and more blood. And the deaths are definitely more violent, but there's so much cutting away and there's so many shots not being seen that I was honestly very surprised at the lack of blood and gore that came with that. And that's okay. I don't need blood. I don't need body parts, stuff like that, to really enjoy a film. But some of these girls are killed in very violent ways. There's other victims as well, too, that are killed in different ways as well. And I guess it's just interesting to me that we didn't get any lingering shots. And as far as I'm aware, there's not an unrated version of this film. So it's like, where are these other shots? They really edit it that much. Now, the film does leave it open for a sequel like the original movie did, and honestly, I am kind of surprised that we never got like even a direct-to-video sequel, just because Sorority Row actually seems like the kind of franchise that would have worked well keeping it going on direct-to-video, especially this new one. Like I reviewed The Hitcher recently, and The Hitcher's not one that I would have continued on, and yes, they did make a sequel to the original film before they made the remake that C. Thomas Howell came back for. Jake Busey was in it as well. I've talked about it a little bit. But I did find it interesting that this was not a franchise that got more movies done, because I feel the college setting is so easy and cheap to do for direct-to-video. So just very, very interesting to me that we got nothing else out of this. Now, in terms of which one is better, this is definitely an original film in this case. Y'all know with some of the other remakes that I've looked at and the originals there, I typically go the route of the original. But with this one here, I guess I'm still going the original on this one as well too. They're both good. I'd watch them both. I will probably watch the remake more than I do the original film, honestly. But the good thing is that the original still feels so contemporary that it doesn't feel like I'm watching something super old checking that out. So I'll end up watching both of these, honestly, fairly regularly. But the remake of Sorority Row is free right now, both on Tubi and on Freevee. So if you check both of those out, you got a chance to check this out for free and not pay a dime for it. So go watch yourself some Sorority Row, y'all. Enjoy it. Hey everybody, I appreciate you checking out this video, whether it was a review, whether it was a new episode, whether it was an unboxing, an interview, or whatever else. I want to remind you, you can check out my separate reviews also on my YouTube page, and new full episodes go up every Wednesday night on YouTube at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and on your favorite podcasting platforms at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like and share. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.